What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, Panthers Advice. Today, man, we're going over some Bryce Young film study, and I say Bryce Young, but it's really what we're going over is Dave Canales and the play calling and how much better it looked against the Falcons. Now, before we get into it, obviously, I'm doing this because there's a few things I want to point out. First up, these plays aren't possible, all right, without the offensive line blocking as good as they did, because right away you're going to see Bryce go from read 1 to read 2 to read 3. I don't know how fast we'll see him make 4 different reads, but pretty quickly you're going to see him make 3 different reads. On top of that, for Dave to continue off his good play calling performance, right, if we want to call it that, against the Falcons, right, for him to continue off of that, he's got to recognize in the game early, okay, Niners are going to do everything they can to stop the run, or maybe the Niners come on a balanced D, and maybe they stack the box some plays, maybe they don't, right? But it's up to Dave to be able to really see that early and see, okay, yeah, this is the Niners game plan. They're going to force Bryce to beat us, but Rico will not, right? And if that's the case, I think Dave can basically compound off what he did last week. The other thing to think about is this right here. The more routes receivers run with Bryce throwing it, right, the better it is for receivers, because now that number 1 DB or number 2 DB or that safety sitting in zone coverage has to think, okay, he ran the deep out, he ran the post, he ran the go route, right? He got the ball in these 2, but he hasn't got the ball in this one yet. Is there a chance he gets it, right? So now he has to caution himself on how he plays the receiver if the receiver is beating him, but that's only possible if the ball's getting to him, and that's only possible if Dave figures out, okay, it's going to be a run, defense or a pass-heavy defense. So definitely a few things to kind of keep in mind, right? As sometimes, as much as we want the run game to get going, sometimes the pass game, it has to get going too, all right? But let's jump into the play calling and take a look at the film study and go from there. So as we jump into this thing, first play we're going to look at right here, it's 2nd and 5, 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends. Now, why does that matter? The whole personnel. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. All right, it's just a quick way to say who's on the field, right? But right here, you're going to have Tremble and Mitchell Evans in. And you saw pretty early the Falcons weren't going to allow the Panthers to run on them, right? So essentially, they've got 7 in the box. What I like about what Dave and Bryce did right here was, quick, easy plays. And what I mean by that is you kind of see the way these DBs are playing right here. It looks like man coverage, all right? Bang, bang, all right? If that's the case, who's going to play down here, right? If Mitchell Evans or Trembles goes out for a route, right? It's either going to be the edge guy, which could get tricky, or it could be the linebackers right here, which makes it easy if we go inside release or anything to push this DB to force this linebacker to go over the top. Bada bing, bada boom. And then last result, maybe the safety, all right? But if you do the safeties, all right, on the tight ends, bada bing, bada bing, right? So let's take a look at this play, see how this first one develops. A little motion right there from Tremble. And what do you know? Linebackers are going to play the tight ends. This is huge right here because, like I said, anything that this receiver can do to push this DB up the field right there, take a look. That linebacker has to go all the way around him. You see right here, quick, easy throws, man. Good stuff right there. Let's take a look at play number 2 right here. We see kind of similarities from the first play, all right, and then a little bit of difference, but you got Bryce Young reading from 1 to 2 to 3. And what's interesting about this play right here is you see single high safety. So it could be a cover 1, could be a cover 3 look. As the play develops, watch the safety. He's coming down, all right? Now the Falcons had Bryce Young's number early on in his career, right? Year 1, they did a number on him. And that happened a lot where the safety, would pick off Bryce Young. But take a look what happens. Safety's going to come down, bang, right over the top. Run that back real quick. As you look at this play from start to finish, first thing I notice is Panthers, they're going to motion Sanders, try and get somebody to bite down on that, and then bang, get T-Mac over the top on 3rd and 2, right? But what they do, all right, is, yes, they do have somebody bite down right here, but that's that defender mugging, all right, the gap right there. He's going to come pick up Sanders, all right. DB A.J. Terrell is going to give T-Mac inside release. Now, I found this a little bit shocking, right? But what the Falcons try to do is bring the safety all the way down, all right, That way T-Mac is picked up. If he goes, right, bang safety, goes left, all right, AJ Terrell right there. What they failed to account for was the Panthers' offensive line blocking that whole time, and then bada bing, bada boom, wide open. Let's take a look at play number 3 right here. Next play we're going to look at right here, it's 3rd and 9, all right? I mean, Falcons look like they're going to tee off. You got an interesting look here from the defense. It almost looks like a special teams, like a punt return or something right here. But what I like about Bryce Young, quick, easy throw right here, all right? Falcons, man, they shoot the A-gap. Take a look at this. They're going to shoot the A-gap. Bryce Young is banking, all right, on his guy being open. Great stuff right there. Not a lot to break down, Falcons shoot the A-gap. They drop a defender to this side, all right? So they've got numbers over here, 4x2. But over here, it's 1v1. Bryce Young, smart, right read. Let's keep it going because it's 4th down right here. And this play actually could have been a touchdown potentially. All right, potentially. And what I mean by that is this right here. So if you look at the Falcons defense right here, it looks like potentially a nickel. So if you go back, first play, all right, they had 7 in the box. Then go to play number 2, all right, we're kind of mugging that B gap right there, all right? Still kind of forcing the Panthers to pass. Then you jump to 3rd and 9 right here, all right? They're coming all out, essentially man-to-man coverage, right? Cover 0. But now, all right, we start right here on 4th and 2. On this play right here, Panthers run a little play action. You got Jalen Walker right here, freezing in his tracks. But that's not the guy to watch, right? Usually when you run the play action, all right, you want to get the middle guys, all right, the linebackers to bite down and then bang, go over the top. And that's where XL is right here. Take a look at this, all right? On top of that, I have to mention the Panthers also do run a screen, right? Take a look right here. All right, you got Rico on this side over here. All these linemen over here. Then you got this whole mess over here. All right, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4 guys trying to pick up this. Nobody's picking up Leggett right there in the middle. Now, if Leggett were to stop right here, honestly, I think this could have been 6. But he keeps running, and I think he's trying to run upfield too. But I think if he stops right there, right, and not run towards that defender, I think that's 6 on the board, right? But it makes a tough catch right there. A lot of yards after catch, good stuff right there. And not to mention, this was all in the first drive, right? And so remember, the Falcons, man, were stacking the box, mugging some gaps. And look at them now, right? It looks like sitting in nickel coverage. If you're going to drop everybody back, we're going to dump it off to Rico. You get a couple yards right there. Thought we might get a couple more. 3rd and 5, all right? Falcons look like they're going to tee off once again. 3-by-1 set, Bryce Young. Woo! Right to T-Mac. Run that back real quick. So on this play, Falcons look to be in a cover 6 look. They're going to drop Walker back. Now T-Mac, man, once again, I'm pressuring you. 3rd and 5 look. You see what I'm saying? He's going to sit in a zone coverage look, right? They're going to take Leggett, push him deep, all right? Get your out route right here. Take this DB, occupy him. Occupy the 2 guys, like I said before, cover 6 look. So he's accounted for, all right? He's accounted for. He's accounted for, right? He's going to connect those 2. He's going to connect these 2. Who's going to pick up T-Mac, right? Really nobody, because Walker's going to drop back, essentially kind of playing a hook spy look right there. Nobody accounts for T-Mac, right? Nobody. Wide open. Good stuff right there. Smart read by Bryce Young, too. And then to cap off the first drive right here, you got Jimmy Horn, like I've said before, essentially just being used for, jet sweeps. My thoughts on that are, it doesn't matter right now because we're going over the film study, but, it is what it is. But it worked right here, right? Because Jimmy Horn going in motion, AJ Terrell's going to play that off. So now it's really T-Mac and the safety, all right? Play action, once again, linebacker comes down. You see what I'm saying? So Terrell is going to play Horn. Safety has to play T-Mac because linebackers came up on the play action right there. T-Mac makes it easy for Bryce Young, and the Panthers get 6 right there. First drive, like I've always said, is beautiful. After that is where the Panthers sometimes get in trouble. But let's take a look right here. So as we jump to the next drive right here, all right, it looks like Falcons and that quarters coverage. Now, one thing to point out in this quarters coverage, it usually looks like quarter, all right, quarter. So bang, quarter of the field, quarter of the field, quarter of the field, quarter of the field, all right. Usually kind of a flat, essentially look right here and then a hook right here from the backer. Sometimes Somebody else might drop back, play a spider hook, right, too, as well. Now, what you have to do, though, is occupy the flat guy. Now, the Panthers do a great job of that because they run play action. On top of that, they essentially pull, all right, Trimble in right here. That's going to draw him in, and then they're going to bang Trimble out on this side. Couple reasons for that. One, we want to distract, all right, this linebacker right away. Distract him right away. That way he doesn't play when T-Mac runs this out, as you're going to see in a second. He's not playing underneath, right? Take a look what happens. They run the fake, bang, T-Mac is wide open. On top of that, let's say the linebacker chooses to blitz, to the A gap, C gap here, whatever it may be. That means you got Tommy coming out right here, bang, he's going to be wide open, right? Because Tommy's going to clog up the A gap, I believe. Let me take a look right here. All right, Tommy's going to clog up the A gap, which means the linebacker has to go all the way around here or all the way around here. By the time he does, hopefully Tommy is out of that mess right there. Easy check down for Bryce Young. Easy check down for Bryce Young. And the other thing to look at right here is that play action. This linebacker came up like a mother, right? Coker would have been wide open in the middle as well. This is the play calling that I like to see from Dave Canales. Let's keep it going. Next play we're going to look at. All right, we're going to pause it right here. They run the fake. Looks like most likely a cover 3 look. Could be cover 1, but it looks like most likely it's going to be a cover 3 look, right? And in a cover 3, if you can get the defender who's going to play that hook or play the seam, you can get him and get him away from who you want to target. Easy money, right? So let the play develop. They run play action. And look who's going to be open once again, T-Mac. The Panthers are finally doing things to actually get T-Mac the ball, right? And get him the ball when he's open. Next play we're going to look at right here, all right? Panthers get a field goal right there, 10-21.5. And look at Bryce Young. Look at Bryce Young putting some mustard on that thing, all right? Coker once again. Coker, I think he had, 4 catches, 52 yards, if I'm not mistaken. 4 targets as well, so he was 4 for 4. The dude's a beast because even when he wasn't getting the ball, you saw he was wide open. Look at that separation he creates right there. All right, look at that separation right there as an outside receiver. And you're going to see right here, Bryce Young has a tough job right here. Rico does a great job with pass protection. Let's highlight that real quick. Falcons, man, they took a page out of the Saints playbook. Watch what they do right here. They're going to send, all right, this DB in, right to that B gap. There goes Rico picking that thing up. That gives Bryce Young, an extra second or two right there. And then let's hit rip right over the linebacker. This is something I talked about last week, right? The Saints kind of laid out a blueprint, give or take, right? Panthers have always struggled the last few years picking up kind of exotic blitzes. Falcons try something right here, but Rico, man, steps in. Good block right there. Bryce Young steps back into the pocket. Doesn't try and roll out to the left or to the right. Steps back into the pocket. Hell of a throw right here. Hell of a throw right there, man. Let's keep it going. And then right here, split set backfield. 12 minutes left in the third, right? So third quarter, still kind of getting started. And the Panthers finally do kind of what we've been wanting all season long. Get Excel that one-on-one. Throw it to him deep because he's got enough speed to beat everybody over the top. And they finally do that. Falcons kind of keep sitting in this cover 6 coverage right here. And you're going to see, all right, as the ball is snapped, Bryce Young's kind of reading the defense, all right. He sees that DB running with Leggett. But he also sees the safety kind of staying put right here. So it's one-on-one right here. Watch Leggett, all right, a little out and up right there. I don't know that he even had to do that because Leggett is that fast, right? But he goes out, all right, up. It's hard to say. Maybe he did, but man, watch Leggett accelerate right here. All right, this is easy throw from Bryce Young too. This is an easy throw. Leggett is probably the fastest receiver on this team. Hopefully, the Panthers can draw up more things to get him in a position like that. Probably won't be as easy, to be honest with you. You got Terrell on the other side over here with T-Mac. All right, but hopefully we can see something more like that. All right, let's keep it going. Check out the next one right here. All right, Panthers get a little bit closer, 16-21. Play action right here. All right, this is that heavy look. Mitchell Evans. Woo. You can always count on him, like I said in post game. All right, you can always count on him to give you one big catch a game. And the thing is, he only gets one target a game. I won't say one. I'll say he gets up to 3, usually 2. And one of those 2 targets he's going to be money on, right? He's going to be money. All right. And right here, same thing. Beautiful play call right here. What I like is just how open he is. Why? Because look what the Panthers did again. All right. A screen once again over there to Rico. Remember we saw that before. Go back real quick. Remember this play on 4th and 2 where the get's open? All right. You had a screen to the right side over here. Look what they did once again. So as we go back and look at this play right here, take a look what happens. Definitely a little bit different. All right, definitely a little bit different. Mitchell Evans turns that thing field. Everybody's worried about over here. And Panthers are in a 13 personnel. That's the crazy part. So you got the 1 back. All right, you got Mitchell Evans, Tremble, and Sanders right here. All right, with 1 receiver. Is that Tremaine? I think that's Tremaine. I almost count him as a tight end. Let's call it 14 personnel, you know. Yes, it's 13 personnel, right? But Tremaine's the big receiver. Falcons essentially have 4 guys over here. All right, and the Panthers, they run a screen. So take a look what happens right here. They run the screen. Everybody's worried about over here. Everybody. And look at Bryce Young. Bang. Woo, 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 woo. Good stuff right there, baby. Good stuff right there. I like the play calling. Next drive we're going to look at. We're going to jump to 7 minutes left in the 4th quarter. It's 3rd and 4 right here. Bryce Young's dropping back. Whew, tough throw, tough catch, man. This is something I talked about after the post game on, I guess, Sunday, right? This was physical. This was physical right here. I mean, look at that. It was physical, and I think both players got away with it. Not both players, both teams, except for J.C. Horn, right? I mentioned this, post-game like I just said, right? J.C. Horn is not allowed to play physical. Every other DB is, right? Mike J plays physical. Corey Thornton plays physical. Falcons, they played physical as well. Everybody can play physical except for J.C. Horn. But Coker, man, another big catch, all right? 4th and 4 right here. Minute 54 left. Not sure what the Falcons were doing, to be honest with you, on 4th and 4 right here. Obviously, I'm not complaining, but they're going to blitz their Mike. All right, they're going to blitz their backer right here in the middle. Not sure why you don't have anybody playing, over the top right there. I mean, they just gave Bryce Young a super easy read right there. Right? A super easy read. Because sometimes you have to look to the outside, right? Look to the outside, kind of work your way in. Try and get a mismatch right there on 4th and 4. Or maybe the slot guy, right? But the linebacker is going to blitz. Hey, Bryce Young will take that thing every day that ends in Y. Let's keep it going. 3-by-1 set right here. They run the screen. Rico, I mean, I go back and forth. If he would have waited, could he have scored? Doesn't matter. The Panthers score anyway. But, man, Rico was like, give me that ball. He hasn't really been able to run it like that all day. He catches it, man. And you're going to see he just wants to fly. Now, I do think if he waits a second, maybe he scores, right? The big boys are moving. But you saw Rico. He is trying to buck that thing. All right. Barely steps out of bounds. Almost scores right there. Not a big deal. Why? Because Bryce Young right here. Who's he hit? All right. T-Mac right here in the end zone, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that was T-Mac. I mean, this was big. Panthers, all right, going to overtime right here. And then Tremble. And then TT making a big play right here. Falcons almost look scared of him, to be honest with you. They almost look scared of him. All right, take a look right here. So, first 2 guys, it seems like they legit tried to tackle him. And I'm not sure what this DB was doing. I guess he tried to punch it out right there. It doesn't work. And then Jesse Bates right there. All right, doesn't tackle him either. And look at Tommy Tremble go. All right, Panthers kick a game-winning field goal. I got to say, the play calling looked good. Coker looked good. Leggett looked good. Mitchell Evans looked good. T-Mac obviously looked good. And then Rico, man. Yes, it took to the 4th quarter. When he got the ball in his hands, he was gone too. The Panthers offense looks good, right? But now it's about, can you do this consistently week to week to week? We've seen them be consistent back-to-back weeks. But can you do it 3 times in a row? So we'll see what happens, all right? Big game, Niners Monday Night Football. Woo, boy. Should be exciting. All right, we still have a couple more videos to post until then. The Panthers fights is out. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy. Peace.